All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us to our 5th week of our weekly Zoom calls to talk about the real estate market in Atlanta. My name is Katie Shank. I'm a Keller Williams Realty, and there's Robby King waving. He's my business partner and buyer's agent on our team. And then we have Jonathan Minsk, who's a mortgage lender with Ameris Bank. And then today's special guest is Bobby McDonough with NPI Home Inspection. And thank you for joining us. So we're all going to talk a little bit about what's going on and what we do. If you have any questions during this, stop us, or feel free to use the chat box to the right if you have any questions too. So we'd like to talk about what's gone on the last week here in Atlanta, because we've been doing this every week. So Robby's going to talk a little bit about the stats from the last week here in town Atlanta. So take it away, Robby.
Okay, so yeah, what we've been doing at the start of each one of these calls is kind of giving a little update for what's happened in the market since the last call. So this is our 5th call, and I think a lot of the questions that we've been asked up until this point over and over continuously have been about home values and what is happening to home values, and are things still moving and all that good stuff. So what we're doing is we basically have measured everything inside the perimeter, because we feel like that's kind of an easy demarcation for everybody to picture and figure out, okay, what market are we looking at? It's like, okay, let's just do ITP. And so those are the numbers that we've been looking at. So these are the numbers for what has gone on since the last call. I'm going to try something now. I'm going to share this thing because I never share it.
Oh, good. Share screen. Yeah.
I'm going to share it. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yeah, oh, we can see it.
You see it, okay? All right, cool. So in the last week, the number of closed sales is 138. So that includes, both single family homes and townhomes. So all of those are included in all of these statistics. So 138 closings inside the perimeter. The average sales price is a little over $490,000, which is pretty steady from what we've seen in the last 5 weeks. All those price points kind of match up with what you would expect in the Atlanta market. Median days on the market is 15. So that essentially means from the time the home was listed to the time it went under a binding contract was only about 2 weeks. So, if that just tells us, both as realtors and the general public, that if your home is priced correctly, it definitely will move quickly. The median sales to list price ratio is basically a number that tells us how much of the listing price did the sellers achieve, on average. So 98%. So again, these are kind of typical springtime numbers. I mean, high sales to list price ratio, short amount of time on the market, a good average sales price. These are all sort of typical. In addition to those that closed, another 207 homes went pending under contract, so are scheduled to close. New listings, 328 new listings in the FMLS as of last Wednesday. And out of those, so 328, and then the total active right now, as of this morning anyway, when I pull all these numbers, is 4,407. Let's see. Coming soon, also, there's 37 new coming soon listings, which is sort of a new thing that the FMLS lets us do. It's not that new. I guess it's a few months old, but basically that says, there's a listing coming and it's not quite ready to hit the market, but it will soon. Maybe there's some repairs or something that needs to happen before it hits the market. So 37 homes coming soon. And then last but not least, the months of available inventory. So this number is kind of a monthly stat. And this lets us know whether or not we're in a buyer's or seller's market. We've been in a seller's market for several years, and that hasn't really changed. So it's 3.6 right now. Last year, around the same time, it was 3.5. So very, very close to what it was last year. There hasn't been any change there so far. So we'll have another number for months of available inventory shortly after the end of this month. And yeah, I think that's it. I mean, it's kind of been pretty steady the last 5 weeks, I would say. It's kind of been very similar numbers, similar enough to where I've had to kind of go back sometimes and make sure I wasn't looking at the wrong reports. But yeah, it's been pretty steady.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it has been steady, and really that's, I mean, honestly, a great thing, and that it's not gone down. And as far as inching up, I think that's actually going to start to happen pretty soon, because just from personal experience, this past weekend was the busiest and most activity I've had probably in 4 weeks on my listings as far as showings go, and real live showings. I mean, people are online and people are looking at everything, but they were getting out, getting in their car, driving over, walking through the house, giving me feedback. And tonight we actually have a second showing on one of these showings from the weekend. So, I think people are just getting, anxious, obviously, excited to maybe get back out into the world safely. And that's what we're here to help to do. I mean, real estate is essential, and we are continuing to work. We're just doing things a little differently. So I think these stats are encouraging, and we're happy to share them with you guys. And we can obviously also get a lot more specific ever if need be with your specific neighborhood and price point. But the ITP as a whole is a nice thing to watch, because that's where we primarily sell. Right. And that's the markets that we're most interested in, and our clients are most interested in. So yeah, thank you, Robby.
You're welcome.
So then Jonathan's going to talk a little bit about the loans and what's happening there over the last week and also the last month. I know his company has been very busy, lots of loans going on. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so month of March, we closed about $800 million in mortgages, which was our record March ever. And in the month of April, we're scheduled to close just south of $1 billion, which consists of 1,200 units. So again, a record month for us ever. And so what that says is that the market has not stopped at all. And even though people are confined, we're able to, through technology and working remotely, continue to get loans through the system, get them closed. We're not having issues with appraisals, because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have implemented policies such that they will accept drive-by only appraisals, which means that in instances where the appraiser, for whatever reason, can't get into the property, we can just do a drive-by, meaning we take exterior photos, make sure that the property is actually there and standing, and use that in lieu of a full appraisal. That's going to be a temporary thing, but it's getting us through this hump right now. As far as, I think last week I talked a bit about some of the guideline restrictions, but they've been very mild restrictions. And quite frankly, it hasn't affected a single loan of mine as far as the difference between somebody qualifying and not qualifying. So I think that even though there are certain restrictions in the guidelines, they're not severe. They're certainly not affecting, the demand, and they're not affecting loans getting, through the system. I know at some point during the call we were going to talk about some of the differences between what's going on right now in 2020, and then also sort of, what happened in 2008 and how they're very different circumstances, and will have very different outcomes as well. So I don't know if we want to segment into that now, or
if you want to speak about that for a few minutes or a minute, you can, and then we'll get to Bobby too. But yeah, if you want to relate it to what you're referring to, it's good.
So I think there's a lot of people that think that this is another housing crisis. They think that that the markets are going to warrant that home values plummet. and that it's going to be impossible to get a mortgage. And those are all inaccurate. We haven't had any appraisal issues as far as valuation issues. As you can see from Robby's statistics, that, you know, when a house hits the market to when it's under contract is 15 days, and it's going at 98.1% of what it's listed at. And from my perspective, I'm not seeing any appraisal issues, which means that the values are holding strong and steady, and there's no reason to believe that that will change. And a very big difference in 2008 was the subprime market. And the subprime market was where lenders were lending to people with like stated income, stated asset, no income verification type loans. To get interest only was a big part of that as well. To get people into homes that ultimately they couldn't afford. And when everything, you know, came to pass, those are the homes that went into foreclosure first and caused sort of the whole housing market to crash very, very quickly. What we're going through now is nothing like that. We're not seeing values decrease. People are out there, they're looking for homes, they're closing on homes. There's inventory, but it's definitely still a seller's market. And, you know, the guidelines are, like I said, have tightened up a little bit, but you can still get a home with, you know, with 3.5% down on FHA. We've got a 100% no MI program for doctors. We have a 100% no MI program for first-time home buyers. So, you know, the products are out there, the demand is out there, values are staying steady, and quite frankly, I think that we're going to be past this hopefully in a matter of, you know, 6 weeks, 2 months, and everything will hopefully at that point start to some sense of normalcy.
Yeah, that's great. That's great information. And I love to hear it from a mortgage perspective, because it's honestly, you know, the same from our perspective. It's just dealing with looking more at the homeowner situations as far as, you know, what they're looking to get out of the property, as far as valuations and stuff. That's, I think, people's biggest worry is my home not going to be worth what it was worth, you know, a week ago, because this happened. And so far we haven't seen any changes in that, you know, as well. When we're going on listing appointments or if we're out showing buyers, when you look back at that chart that Robby shares, it's very telling that the list to sales price average was like 98%, right, Robby? It was very, very high. So people that are listing their homes, you know, in the right range are getting those prices. And also that has to do with the lower inventory, because there's not a whole lot out there. It's a great time to both buy and sell, because you've got a little bit less competition on both ends. So, you know, that's why it's better to go ahead and do it now versus if you wait 6 months to a year, even, there's no way telling of what's going to happen, and or especially with interest rates, like Jonathan talked about, you know, the affordability is much higher now. So I know Robby's got more info on that, but let's go ahead and let Bobby talk about what he does and how things are going with him and inspections, and we can go back around to 2008. And then David, of course, if you have any questions, you can stop us or put them in the chat box. Thanks.
Sure. All right. Well, thanks. Yeah. Well, we have definitely slowed down a bit, you know, over the past month and a half or so that this has been going on. But we're still working. We are an essential business, so we're doing probably about half of the capacity of what we have in the, you know, recent years this time of year. This is our busiest time of year, so you know, even to be doing half of our normal capacity, we're very happy with that, and you know, very optimistic. And seeing that it's from the first week or the first couple weeks that this was going on, it really slowed down, and it's kind of been ramping itself back up. We've known last week was busier than the week before. This week was busier than last. So I am definitely feeling an uptick right now. And we're very hopeful and optimistic that once everything does kind of lift, that there, you know, is going to be pretty big boom and high demand for, for us. So my company and my inspectors, we're doing the best that we can to prepare ourselves mentally, just sharpen our pencils, know what we need to be looking for.
Yeah.
So, what we're doing out in the field right now every day is following strict sanitation guidelines to, obviously limit the spread of this pandemic. All of my inspectors are wearing gloves during the entire inspection, wearing booties or shoe covers whenever they're in the home, spraying down and sanitizing any surfaces that may have been touched, keeping a mask on at all times. We are asking, it's not a requirement or anything like that, but we are asking for clients to not attend right now, just to limit any physical interaction between people. So we're offering a video conference call, either a Zoom call like this, or even a quick FaceTime call, something like that. But if clients do want to come, of course they are still welcome. We are just doing our best to social distance and do our part there. Marketing limitations has been kind of a tough one for us lately. Just face-to-face marketing is kind of the way that we've done it all in the past. So it's just kind of a new way. Keeping in touch with people like you is the most important aspect of marketing at this time. So we're just doing our best to touch base with everyone we can.
Awesome. Thank you. I think, did you say, Jonathan, you had a question for him? Somebody had a question for him earlier. Or did you already ask that? Couldn't remember. Not you. Oh, you're on mute. Okay, cool. Did you have any questions for him, David or Robby or Michael? Michael just joined. Thank you for joining. And this is Bobby McDonough with NPI Home Inspection. So he was just kind of talking about how things are going with his business and what they're doing, their protocols and procedures and all of that. Anyone have any questions for him? No?
No, I think he answered the question I had, so. Yeah,
good. Yeah, no, and again, we're doing deals, we're working with people. I've had inspections during this period as well, and the inspectors are being very cautious and safe. And I think it's a great idea that, not all these people don't have to be in the house during the inspection. They'll do video calls with you, and they always take photographs of everything that they're inspecting anyway. It's part of the report. So not much has changed in that respect, I don't think. You just don't have somebody over your shoulder, maybe, that's all. But the way you're able to inspect and
covering's not a great idea.
Right. Yeah. It's never recommended anyways.
Yeah.
We have to stay focused, and if we're distracted, we're human as well. So.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Thank you. So Michael, thanks for joining again. You joined a little late. We just kind of went over a few things already. I'm sorry, we're having issues with Facebook Live. Clearly, we're still trying to connect. And this is all recorded too. So if at any point you want me to send you the recording of this, or we're sending out, highlights of it during the week and posting it too. But what we were talking about earlier, we started to talk a little bit about the differences between 2008 recession, housing crash versus now, and what's going on with the COVID-19. And obviously it's very different. Jonathan spoke to it regarding mortgages, and literally everything he said is correct. And I think Robby and I would, concur with. But Robby, I know, had some additional information. I don't know if you want to share anything else that you.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean, this is obviously like something that is on people's minds a lot, and a lot of people are asking about it. And I guess, it's like a worldwide, effect, right? So everybody's like trying to compare it to the last big worldwide situation that affected real estate. And so they're like, well, is this going to be like 2008 where, home prices crash and all these, all this stuff's going to happen? And what we can do, all we can do really is like, I always say that Katie and I are full-time students. Like, we are just constantly digging into numbers and digging into history and trying to figure out how to educate our clients the best we can. And so, we've looked at a lot of information in the last few weeks to try to figure out, well, everyone has this concern. Is it like 2008? there are a lot of differences. So many differences. We could be on a Zoom call for hours to talk about it. So we've actually had to kind of like pare it down a little bit to just some key things that might be helpful to share. And I'm going to share something with you now. Here's one thing that we thought was helpful. Oh, is this, maybe that's not the right thing. Can you see, what do you?
We see the annual home price appreciation chart. We looked.
Oh yeah, no, this is it. Okay.
Yeah. What do you
so this is something that we've talked about, and actually Katie and Jonathan and I had a long conversation about it the other day, talking about, you know, just this comparison between 2008 and what's happening now, and how, you know, we've been measuring week after week what's going on specifically in the Atlanta market. So these charts are broader, but still very helpful in illustrating a difference, a big difference. One big difference leading up to the housing crash, you know, in 2008 was kind of this runaway home value appreciation. Everything was just sort of inflated, and, you know, the growth year over year was just enormous. I think that people who have been in Atlanta for any particular length of time, like 10 years or, you know, around that mark, can see that the Atlanta market has actually gone up a lot. But it's kind of been steady, healthy growth coming out of, you know, a very long time of economic, you know, instability in some areas of Atlanta. The point is that you can see where these valuations leading up to 2008 were just kind of really enormous and skyrocketing, and how that could lead to like a big bubble burst. You know, everyone's like, the bubble's going to burst, the bubble's going to burst. Well, if you look at the last 6 years, it looks very mild and, you know, like gentle, healthy growth in comparison. It doesn't look necessarily like a bubble ready to burst. And again, just to reiterate that we've been studying, you know, for the last few weeks, like, is something happening? Is there a shift? Are home values going down? And they haven't. And I think that this is a good illustration of maybe why they haven't, because they just weren't inflated to the point where nothing was making sense anymore. So that's one piece of information that we found helpful, and we hope you do too. There's another, let's see if I can bear with me. There's another chart I was going to show you. Oh yeah, so we talk a lot about this, months of available inventory. So as I mentioned at the start of the call, talking about Atlanta statistics, the months of available inventory today in Atlanta is about 3.6. Last year it was about 3.5. That's a very strong seller's market. And so if this is a chart that's from the National Association of Realtors, kind of showing you what's happening across the country, you know, in 2007, there was 8.2 months of available inventory, which is a strong buyer's market, meaning that home values were really kind of plummeting. You know, if it turns into a buyer's market, that means that stuff's not moving, things are not selling. So today, you know, and for the last several years, it's been a seller's market. We haven't seen that shift. We feel like this is kind of helpful, you know, just to indicate where we're at, you know, that there hasn't been that much of a change. And again, you know, we're definitely continuing to monitor. I think that our perspective is that we want to educate our clients, and that when there is a shift, or if there would be a shift, that we would be the ones to let you know, like, we're paying attention, and that's our job. That's what we're supposed to do. But we just haven't seen it. And honestly, from what we've seen so far, we don't really see it happening. I mean, honestly, the amount of inventory that we have is still so low. For the whole, you know, thing to upset and turn into a buyer's market, it would take a long time to get there. The real estate market is not typically ever as volatile as like the stock market, which bounces around up and down all the time. The real estate market is slower to respond, so we don't see any huge risky stuff going on right now. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And even what back to Jonathan's point about the interest rates, you know, I don't know how much, I think you mentioned it briefly, but he said many times, because it is an election year and just also what's been going on the last month or two, you agree, Jonathan, that you think these rates are going to kind of stay steady through the end of the year and low and affordable, which makes more people, you know, wanting to and able to buy right now.
I do, and I do for a couple of reasons. One, it's an election year, but number two is that I think that those in charge of monitoring the economy understand how important the housing market is to keep the economy strong and to keep the economy moving forward. You know, again, trying to compare in 2008 from a cause and effect perspective is what caused the downfall of the market in 2008 was an economic issue. It was that the subprime market was very strong, and by subprime that means people will be able to get loans by stating their income and not verifying it, by stating their assets and not verifying it. People were taking out interest-only loans so that they could qualify for more, and then all of a sudden, when you know everything just sort of hit at the same time, you know, these people that had these subprime loans couldn't pay for them anymore, and people that had interest-only loans, their interest rates were adjusting up, and they no longer could afford their houses. And all of a sudden, we had, you know, all these people just having to, you know, give up their homes, and there was a surplus on the market, and you couldn't give away homes at that time. This is so different now. This is the cause and effect from what we're going through right now is health related. It's a virus. There's a finite end to this. And I think just from, you know, looking of what's been going on around the whole entire world, and those countries that have sort of experienced this before it came to the United States, we're starting to see them rebound now, coming back to life. And, you know, here in America, obviously we've taken a different stance on how to handle it than other countries have. But nevertheless, you know, I think that like I mentioned before, there is a finite end to this. And interest rates are going to stay low. I think when people feel more secure about being able to go out and about their own business, I think the floodgates are going to open in the residential real estate market. I think people who are on the fence now of whether they should list their house, whether they want people in their house, that's all going to change. And I think what's going to happen is that we're going to see what would normally be our spring market that's happening now just happen a little bit later, but happen all at once. And I think other industries are going to feel this as well. I think that when this is over, I think you're going to see that people that have been, you know, holed up in their homes for weeks and months on end want to go on vacation again. They want to escape. They want to go out to dinner again. They want to do things that they have been, you know, confined in their homes and can't do. So I think that everything is optimistic, and everything points toward a very, you know, a very positive outlook in the market. And I think the fact that we see that demand is still there, we see that values haven't declined, shows us that this is so far and vastly different than what happened in 2008. So that's
absolutely.
my perspective from the mortgage world.
From the mortgage world, and also he and I were in the real estate world during that time. I was selling real estate, he was doing mortgages, so we lived through it, if you will. And I can tell you personally, is not the same thing, thank God, because it was, you know, horrific on every level. And not that this isn't, it's just very different, and this is horrific on a different level. But as far as our business goes, and the fact that we're still essential and things are still happening is very positive, you know, which was not the case back then for the most part. So, so thank you all. So yeah, so anybody, David or Michael, anybody, Bobby, have any questions for us or anything you're curious about? You tuned in as like update, but I know, you're Michael is a homeowner and David has been a homeowner, and you guys are familiar, but obviously the industries you work in are obviously affected by this as well. So, anything you want to share, ask, please. I can unmute you, or if you're muted, or if you want to type, there you go. You're unmuted.
Well, I do have a little bit of a question, I guess. As you and I have talked, and obviously I'm sure you shared our conversation with Robby to know of my back burner interest. I'm on the back burner, not super active. And I was around there with you at M West back in 2007-8 when we crashed, and I am in no desire or no position. I have no interest to write a big fat check again to get out of a house. So I know I could still, make money right now. But with that chart that Robby just showed with the 3.1 months of inventory, supposedly, I guess that's what that was. I've got a great house I could sell, but I also want to go to a new great house. So that's my quandary right there is, this is a nice house, but if I pulled the trigger, am I going to have to be homeless again like I was when I left M West and live in a friend's house for 4 months before I find something else? Yeah. So of the inventory that's out there, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and if you want, I'll just say something briefly and Robby can chime in too, but just since you and I have talked, I know that you might like or be attracted to new construction sometimes, right? So the benefit of that is that it's out there, it's happening. I literally just had a conversation with somebody today looking in Midtown and over $1 million, condo market, and they're still moving, they're still taking reservations, contracts. So construction's still happening, new construction's happening. So I would say if that's a real desire for you, this is actually a great time to really dig into that and see what's available and what's coming, even obviously prior to going ahead and pulling the trigger and listing your home, because they're all in different, rates of construction, if you will. Like something might be built and ready to close in 30 to 45 days, or something like I was talking with this lady, this is a unique situation, but it won't be ready till next July. But, just starting to talk with us and to meet with us about what you really like and what's out there is the way to go as far as initially, especially with new construction. Now with an existing home, Robby can speak to this as well. There is inventory out there. And the thing is if you have these real specific guidelines of what you want and the criteria, and we just had this email earlier today with another buyer, the one home she kind of liked out of 20 that we sent her is now under contract. It's gone. And she kind of was slow to move with it, but it wasn't like it was only on the market for a day either. So that's our job. We're here to find out what you want, get into the details and show you online at least what's out there and what's the state they're in, if you will, as far as new and whatever, and then make that decision about, because I do agree he has a great house and I feel like it probably would move pretty quickly. We can't say exactly, but you like to just have a better idea about where you might like to go. And so Robby can speak to that as well.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Kay said, and I'll just say that, well, there's 2 reasons that I think are really, really good reasons to move from the back burner to the front burner if you were going to do it. And I would say, A, interest rates are insanely low. They're so low. If you lock into a 30-year loan at these low rates, it's just kind of amazing. And maybe hopefully they won't go up anytime soon, but just knowing that you're going to be locked into that rate and it won't probably ever be lower than that ever in history is obviously a very incentivizing thing. And 2, I would say that inventory is very low, and that it's so low because there's such high demand for this inventory. And so the leg up that you have as a buyer right now, like today, is that you might not have to beat out other buyers for the property that you want, or as many other buyers. Because what it's been for the last 2 or 3 years, and including this year, you know, starting January 1, I was having to beat out multiple offers for all of my buyers, no matter what property they picked. And no matter how long that property had been on the market, they were like, oh, it's been on the market for 45 days. Let's like slide over this offer and see what they say. And then they would call back and say, I got 2 other offers today. We'd be like, oh my gosh. So that is what low inventory means to me as a buyer's rep, is that if anybody is like taking pause right now and wondering, oh, I have this plan to move and now I'm not sure and I'm stalling, take advantage, and you guys can all hang out and think about it. And I would be like, I'm going to get my house, bye. And that's my take on it, honestly.
Let me follow up that one of your comments about the rates. Because when all this started happening, I was hearing all the buzz about, you know, maybe you should refinance because the rates are, you know, historically low, or lower in 30 years, lowest in 30 years. So I got a really low rate when I bought this one back in 2012, I believe. And so when I called to check on that, it was with Wells Fargo, and they said, oh no, you've got a great rate. We can't even touch that right now. I think I'm like 3.5, 3.25 or something right now. And
wow.
Yeah, so they said that
That's
right
amazing.
now it's like 4.5 or something like that. And they said, you know, after this pandemic runs its course, then what's going to happen is that the things that are really cheap right now are credit card interest rates, and that the long-term loan rates, the interest is high. So once the pandemic is over, it's going to flip-flop. The credit card rates will go up and the mortgage rates will come back down. So are you saying, maybe for Jonathan, that there's something out there that's even more competitive than I'm at right now for a new house?
Okay, so let me answer that question. A lot of the bigger banks, Wells Fargo, BB&T, they don't want refinances right now. They can't handle them. Purposely pricing them high so that they're not getting these loans.
Oh, totally.
We have not taken that stance. Right now, I can handle at 3.25%. You just said, you know, they're telling you that refinancing would be 4.5%. The reason why they're quoting those rates is because for refinance transactions, they don't want them because they can't handle them. They can't handle it. So we don't take that stance. We believe that we're going to offer the same rate to somebody who is refinancing versus somebody who's buying a house. And you're right about the credit card rates. When we see the prime being dropped and dropped and dropped, that affects your credit cards. It affects car loans. It affects home equity lines of credit. It does not have any direct correlation with long-term rates. Mortgages are. So if you're at 3.5 or 3.25, you do have a great rate. And if you were calling me to say I want to refinance, I would tell you, first of all, the first question I would ask you is, how long do you intend to stay in your property? It sounds like you're on the fence right now, whether you want to stay or go. I think.
Well, I know I want to go. I just don't know when.
Okay.
He wants to go. We just got to figure out where and when, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So if you were at 5%, let's just say, or 4.75, which people who bought homes about 1.5 years ago were at, we could do the math and say, okay, you're going to save $300 a month, and it's going to cost you, $6,000 to refinance. So your break-even point is 20 months. So if you're going to stay in the house a little over 1.5 years, then it makes sense to refinance. But if you are in that mindset where I am moving, and the question is when, I would advise you don't refinance. You're going to have to stay in the property to that break-even point, again, to literally break even. So what I'm seeing a lot of people do right now is that they're in 30-year fixed rates and they're refinancing into 15 and 20. And these are people that maybe are, in their 40s, 50s that I think this is the house they want to stay in for a while, potentially the house that they want to retire into, and they're looking for ways to pay the loan off quicker so that at some point when they do retire, they won't have a mortgage at all.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody like yourself, who's obviously you've got the bug to sell and to buy something else, I would say don't refinance. Don't even consider refinancing. Wells Fargo is obviously one of the banks that doesn't want the refinances.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably find a lower rate if you really wanted to, maybe not substantially lower, and it wouldn't make sense to do it, even if you stayed there a while. But knowing that you want to move, I would just say sit tight. The refinance part of your thought process, and focus more on, obviously based on the numbers that Robby presented, you can sell your house quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And as you sell your house quickly, can you find the house that you want to move into next as quickly?
Mm-hmm.
I'll defer back to Katie and Rob.
And the answer is yes, of course, if you work with us. No, I'm just kidding. It's true. But really, it's just the details, and that's what we're here to help with. But the good news of all of this, hopefully for someone like you, is that it is still, it's a positive time to do these things, and we hope that will continue here as things, kind of loosen up maybe with, the virus and things. But regardless, we know what's going on now, and that's why we're doing this weekly, and it's been, in the direction of things continuing to be on an upswing, if you will. But that's the other thing, is some people are considering this now or this year, and then they think, oh, we'll just do it next year, we'll do it whenever. And that's the stuff that kind of freaks me out, is that we have no idea what that's going to look like. Obviously, interest rate rise, inventory wise, all these things, it's a mystery. So all we can speak to is what's happening today. And we certainly are available to meet with you, Michael, either via Zoom or FaceTime or whatever you're comfortable doing, and sharing with you what's out there, so you can really know, and doing the research for you to find out details specifically on something like a new construction, and timelines, and real timelines, because we certainly don't want you to be homeless. But if there's a good opportunity for something to get into, we want you to take advantage of that, so we can talk offline about that too.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in. This is just my personal belief that looking at where we'll be this time next year, I think that we're going to see the election will be over. Hopefully this virus there'll be a vaccination, and if it does come back, it won't be to the extreme that we're seeing it right now. And what that means is that, we're going to see the economy and the stock market start to stabilize and do well again, which means that both short-term and long-term rates are likely to go up, assuming that everything, doesn't go into, chaotic, something unforeseen happens in the world that, who would have thought last year that we would be in this situation now? So who knows next year what, could be. Assuming nothing, catastrophic comes our way, my thought would be that interest rates are going to be higher, both short-term and long-term. And people that were sitting on the fence this year and could have gotten a rate in the 3s, and next year they're in the 4s, are probably going to say, wow, I should have acted last year when I could have.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's, kind of the direction we're seeing, but we can't say for sure. I didn't bring my crystal ball today, but if you have a little.
Next week.
I have those shaky ones. What are they called? Magic balls?
Magic 8 ball.
Magic 8 ball. So, any other questions from you or David? Very quiet in your space situation. You're chilled out there. Bobby, anyone else have any thoughts or questions?
I don't have any questions for you guys. You covered anything that I possibly have been thinking about over all this time. I've had a lot of uncertainty and uncertain thoughts, and I'm really glad I joined the meeting today. You guys answered everything that I've been.
Well, we're really glad to have you, and to have you as a great partner. MPI home inspection, just so you know, is excellent. And again, Michael is a potential seller and buyer, and David's a potential something buyer. No, so I always encourage, pre-listing inspections, and then of course inspections when you buy. So, we love to have great great people to refer like you. So we appreciate it. And we appreciate you being safe and still working and still out there to help us, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
It takes
thank you
a
for the
village,
continued referrals.
you know?
Yeah.
And last week we had a stager on, which was great, Christina Bell with No Vacancy. But the week before we had a closing attorney, and we're going to have another closing attorney next week. So, you know, we all work together in this, and we're all got our parts, and we're still moving parts. That's the main thing. A lot of people think that there's just been a dead stop, and there hasn't been, which is great.
Yeah, and that's something else we haven't really talked about today too. It's like, you know, you go through the whole process and then you get to the closing, and how do you close, you know? So,
Right.
you know, it's closing attorneys are offering options. One of which is face-to-face closings. Every attorney is still doing that, just, you know, taking the necessary precautions. Have become innovative with the approval and the blessing of both lenders and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, where a lot of them are doing literally, you sign in your car, you get the documents, you sign them, you hand them to the closing attorney, and you drive away. They're also doing them, you know, through video, through, you know, through where basically you sign, the closing attorney will send you your loan documents, you print them out, you send them on a virtual phone call just like this, and then send them back to the closing attorney, and they'll notarize them. I mean, nothing stopped the process from you know, real estate agents being able to show property, lenders being able to lend, and closing attorneys being able to close, and home inspectors being able to go into the property and inspect the homes. Everything is still happening just with a few more precautions than, you know, 2 months ago.
Absolutely. So, yeah, so we're here. Robby, did you want to add anything else, or do you have anything that sparked your interest of a question or thought?
I think so.
Be sparked.
I
wish David would get sparked down there and ask us a question. I just like to call him out because it embarrasses him. No, but we really appreciate you guys joining us. I hate that we had the Facebook issue, but the thing is I record these, so we're going to definitely
post it.
We're going to post it. We can replay it. We can start a watch party. We've gotten, believe it or not, much more tech savvy during this whole thing. We just can't control the bandwidth. Lauren thinks, my assistant, there was a bandwidth issue. There's too many people online, basically. So, but like I say, that's what we got the recording, and you have our information. You can reach us anytime for a private Zoom or FaceTime or whatever you want. And I think that's probably about it, unless you have any other questions.
And just also too, we're doing this every Wednesday at 5:30. So if you know anybody that's looking to buy, sell, refinance, you know, direct them to us. If you all of a sudden, you know, realize that you've got more questions that you have that you didn't think of today, feel free to jump back on next week and ask away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, please share this with anyone you know, and even not even people that are thinking about buying, selling, or refining. Like, people just, they want to know, what's going on in the market. You know, they may be even considering it here in the next year. Their leases are coming up, whatever's happening. You know, the thing is life is still happening. So a lot of the people we're working with now are relocating for jobs. They, you know, got married, they're having a baby, they are renting, and their lease is up, and they hate their apartment. I mean, these things are happening despite, as long as they're healthy and safe, like, that's not stopping. And that's a lot of people that are still active right now. And that's only going to continue, obviously. So we're here for all those people, whatever's going on with them. So, yeah, so thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
We'll hopefully see you soon on a Zoom or 6 feet away or wherever. And I hope you have a great night.